Fact or Faked Paranormal Files was a show that ran for 2 seasons on the SyFy channel, airing from 2010 to 2012. The concept was pretty simple. A team of 6 experts analyzed different unexplainable footage, performing real-world experiments to attempt to recreate and debunk them, with the end goal being to decide whether the clips were fact or faked. As a child, I loved this show. I remember watching it a lot. I'd watch it on TV, I would watch it when I was homesick from school, and I remember being pretty scared by it at the time. However, looking back on it, I think the show was a lot goofier than I used to think it was, but I have no way of proving that because I only have vague memories from it, and as far as I can tell, no one has really made a video about it, and I can barely find discussions about it online. So you know what? I'll do it. Let's take a look at the Season 2 premiere, and together, we'll find out if this show being good was fact or faked. The show opens up with this sick opening, which introduces us to the 6 members of the team. We've got Ben, a former FBI agent who's the team lead, Bill, the lead scientist, Jael, the journalist, Devin, the tech specialist, Cheelon, the photographer, and Austin, the stunt expert. And together, this band of goofy goobers are on a mission to prove that grainy ghost footage is fake. Or maybe real. I don't know. Let's see. The show opens up with the gang meeting up in their little clubhouse. Their situation room. This section is actually pretty interesting. Each episode of this show involves the 6 members breaking up into 2 different teams to investigate 2 different clips. But it's framed as if the members of the team are bringing in different clips and images that they could potentially analyze. Now, obviously, behind the scenes, I'm sure production has already decided which clips they're actually going to be looking at way ahead of time. But I still find it interesting to watch the team actually explain away and debunk some of these videos. For example, one of the clips they bring in is of this vortex in the water, and the whole team is freaking out about how crazy it is. And then Devin is just like, guys, it's just a cement drain to stop flooding. And he just shuts it down so fast.
You guys, I've actually seen this video before. It's actually a giant cement drain that prevents flooding.
Now, I think this little, show and tell section is pretty interesting. The editing is just so over the top, and their reactions are just so dramatic that it becomes unintentionally hilarious. Look at their reaction to this one clip.
Oh my gosh!
Calm down, guys. A cup fell over, and you're acting like you just watched somebody get shot. So what 2 cases do they end up choosing? The first one is an image of the historic Battle of Los Angeles, and here's how they explain it.
February 25th, 1942. The military gets a radar return on an inbound aircraft 120 miles offshore. So just after 3 a.m., witnesses start hearing anti-aircraft shelling. This is the photo that was taken by the LA Times that appeared on February 26th.
Where the spotlights are converging, it looks like a saucer-shaped craft.
The Air Force released that it was just a weather balloon years later in the 80s.
Remember that explanation. It'll be important later. The second case is a video of a ghost caught on the famous Queen Mary ship. Let's check it out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's like a shadow figure, but instead of it just being shadows, it's actually white.
Huh. Ooh, I'm a spooky ghost. Guys, come on. This is the easiest thing to fake.
And, I shot a documentary about the haunted Queen Mary, and this is still the best piece of evidence that I've ever seen.
This is the best piece of evidence you've seen? Were we all stupid in 2011? So Ben, Devin, and Jael decide to take on the Battle of LA, and Bill, Cheelon, and Austin are heading to the Queen Mary. Before the team can do any testing, they've got to do a little bit of research. So they go to a museum where, like, one of the original guns are or something that they used to shoot at the thing in the sky. And they talk to the museum director and a World War II historian. And let me just give you the Sparks Note version of that conversation. There was radio contact with an unidentified aircraft, and then at some point they started shooting at something in the sky. At some point that night, a weather balloon was launched. Despite all the searchlights on this mysterious object in the sky, there isn't a single consistent story as to what that object was. And finally, the government claimed it was a weather balloon. But if it was a weather balloon and they were shooting at it, how did they not hit it? Maybe it was a UFO and the government's trying to cover it up. I don't know. Now, with that very important conversation out of the way, the team is ready to drive out into the middle of the desert and start doing some tests. One of the theories is that the object that's seen in the middle of the lights is just an artifact of, like, the lights combining in the sky. And I mean, like, I'm not a scientist, but that sounds pretty reasonable. So they set up a bunch of lights in a similar way, and let's see how that turned out. Okay, well, those lights are different.
And an obvious thing is the beams are going right through our artifact and continuing on.
Yeah, because the lights are different.
Or maybe it's because of the flak.
Yeah, there's all kinds of flak in the sky, anti-aircraft shells detonating around the convergence point. That's why the beams in the original photo are stopping.
No, the lights...
I would love to shoot some anti-aircraft artillery.
You'd love to what? Okay, so, like, they keep insisting that these lights are the same as the original ones because they have the same color temperature and luminosity.
They have the same color temperature and luminosity.
Which are the same color and luminosity as what was used in 1942.
But, like, no. They're different. Like, they're visibly different. So now they're convinced that if they just start, like, shooting at the sky, the smoke will make the lights stop at the, like, convergence point. And I'm not a scientist, but that sounds less reasonable.
It
Look at how
captured every
bright those
single
are.
one of those explosions.
But we do still have that problem where the beams of light are passing through the point.
Shockingly, that didn't work. What were they even firing exactly?
We've got this grenade launcher.
Oh. Okay, sure. Well, since that didn't work, what are they gonna try next?
Guys, as you know, in 1983, the Air Force's explanation was that this was a weather balloon. We need to put this to the test to see if it's even possible such an object would make, an artifact like we're seeing here.
Okay, so they keep insisting that the government's explanation is that this object in the sky was a weather balloon. Is that even true? No! Okay, we need to talk about the Battle of LA. So, usually this show just covers, like, random paranormal clips, but since this time they're covering a historical case that has a lot of information on it, we have a unique opportunity to see how much research they actually do into the things they're talking about, which, as it turns out, is very little. So, I did my own research, and here's what actually happened. So, at 2:15 a.m., radars detect some unidentified target west of Los Angeles. Then, around 3:15, they start shooting at the sky, following reports of an aircraft. The Office of Air Force History would later come out, like, years later, and say that a weather balloon could have been what caused the initial alarms to be raised. From here, stories wildly vary, as a combination of the smoke, the bullets, and just panic caused people to see various different things in the sky. Now, the show keeps framing it as if the government said that the object in the sky that they were shooting at, and which was shown in the image, was a weather balloon, which is straight up incorrect. So, like, what actually is that thing that's in the image? Well, I found something interesting. In an article in the Los Angeles Times, writer Ed Stockley writes, and I quote, "As reported by Los Angeles Times blogger Scott Harrison and Larry Harnish, the version of the photo that ran in the paper in 1942 had been retouched in ways that would not be acceptable today. The skyline was darkened with ink, paint was used to brighten searchlight beams and to turn lens flare dots into anti-aircraft bursts. The part of the image identified by UFO experts as an alien spacecraft was shaped by drops of paint on the print." He then goes on to write, quote, "Hansen," referring to Ben Hansen, the FBI guy and team lead, said that he had spoken to someone who had seen the negative and knew the photo had been altered, but that the negative wasn't available. The original negative has been safely enclosed in the UCLA archives for years. In an interview, Simon Elliott at the Department of Special Collections at UCLA's Charles E. Young Research Library said any researcher could have requested the negative at any time. So, not only do they have the story wrong, but the image is wrong, and they knew the image was wrong. Anyways, they launch a weather balloon into the sky and just start fucking shooting at it. I feel like at this point they just wanted an excuse to shoot some guns. Let's see how this one turned out.
There are a faint couple that are still pushing through there, but it's better.
Oh, okay. You know what? That's actually not too bad.
The question is, how did these guys not get this thing down after 1,440 rounds of fire?
No, guys, I just went over this.
Let's say they hit it with at least one bullet. How long did it take for it to come down?
No, stop. There wasn't a weather balloon.
I think that we should just shoot this thing and see what happens.
You want to see my true marksmanship now, is what you're saying.
Yes!
You want to see what I can do.
Oh, God, we've lost the plot. Now they're gonna shoot the weather balloon to see what happens, and I guess see how long it takes to fall to the ground. I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine at this point. So they start shooting it, and back to the Situation Room. Here they basically just go over everything we just saw, and in case you're wondering, the balloon reached the ground in 3.7 seconds. So, do with that information what you want.
If a weather balloon is that easy to shoot down, it calls into question the official Air Force report. You have all these highly trained soldiers, and they shoot off over 1,400 rounds, and there's no reports of debris. Maybe this was a UFO.
Oh my god. No, I'm done. I'm done.
So, Pearl Harbor just happened. The military is on high alert, and somebody mistakes a barrage balloon for an enemy aircraft.
Oh, wait, yeah, that.
The problem is, you guys, is that it's still just a big balloon. They should have been able to bring it down.
That's a good point.
No. Oh, you were so close. Oh. Let's just move on to the Queen Mary ghost. So the first thing the team does is go on a tour of the Queen Mary. And this part is very unimportant. They basically just walk around the pool and like a hallway and go, "Ooh, this place is pretty spooky." Then they go talk to the person who recorded the original video. And he claims that he left his camera on a windowsill and then just like walked away. And then they do this thing that I remember them doing in like almost every episode, where they ask the person who recorded the video if they hoaxed it. And in every episode, the person always goes, no.
So you can say with 100% certainty that you don't believe either you were hoaxed or have been part of a hoax?
It was not a hoax.
Like, I don't understand. Obviously, they're gonna say they didn't hoax it. Can you imagine what would happen if they said yes? So this is the room where you capture that chilling footage of a ghostly figure throwing your baby across the room. That's right. And you're confident you weren't involved in any sort of hoax, right? No, I'm pretty sure I did hoax it. Wait, what? Yeah, no, it was all fake. Oh. So your baby wasn't actually thrown across the room? No, that part I actually did do. Now that the team's gathered some invaluable info, such as the Queen Mary, it's pretty spooky, and I pinky swear I didn't fake the footage, it's time for them to start running some tests. And to be honest, I was getting pretty worried when they started talking about theories about how it could be like shadows or fog. I was fully ready for them to start claiming that the figure was just some fog or something. But then they actually film Austin like walking in the same way as the figure does in the video, and then project the footage into the hallway using a fog machine to give the image something to like be projected onto. And I was honestly pleasantly surprised by this. It was actually pretty interesting. And then realizing that they could see the projector beam at the bottom of the footage, they take inspiration from the glass cages in the room and use like a glass presidential style teleprompter to project the image in front of the camera. These are both pretty interesting solutions. I mean, I really doubt that this guy was bringing fog machines, projectors, or glass teleprompters onto the Queen Mary to fake this footage. I really just think it was like basic video compositing. But this is a lot better than whatever was going on with the Battle of LA. And it was all going so well until this happens.
Now that we've done the forced perspective test and we can see that the video can be hoaxed, we still have to consider the long history of the Queen Mary.
Wait, what are you talking about?
There have been so many eyewitness accounts of paranormal activity.
No, stop. You just showed how it could be fake.
So we're going to go ahead and do a night investigation.
Oh, goddammit. Oh, it was going so well. Okay, so now it's time for them to do like a Temu version of Ghost Adventures. So Chilon goes over to the boiler room to check for heat signatures. Bill sits in the middle of a hallway to do an EVP session, which it just stands for Electrical Voice Phenomenon, and it's just like a fancy way of saying he's going to set up a voice recorder and then talk to it by himself while sitting in the middle of a hallway. And Austin is just watching the cameras, and everything is normal. Everything's going fine until something is seen on the thermal camera.
Whoa, did you see that?
I'm catching some type of heat signature and it is moving, but I don't see anything with the naked eye.
Let me get this awesome close-up on Bill as he hears a creaking noise. And Austin sees a pair of eyes right over near Bill. And things are going crazy. The heat signature is moving. And we're back to the Situation Room. And again, they basically just go over the tests that we just talked about. Except, it turns out they actually did end up doing video compositing.
To drive the point home that a video like this can be hoaxed, I shot the empty hallway, then I took the video of Austin, and I composited the two.
Wow.
That looks great.
Yeah, that one. That's how they did it. And then they go over what happened in that night investigation. Those spooky eyes Austin saw. Ooh, a raccoon. And that EVP session Bill was doing. Well, that actually did capture something. Let's check it out.
We're all here to learn from you.
Oh my gosh. Are you kidding me?
Oh my god. That was so scary, I just pissed myself. They claim it sounds like a little girl snickering, but I think it sounds more like the noise you make when you like stub your toe, but someone is asleep in the other room. You like don't want to wake them up. Oh, and that thermal camera footage? They don't bring it up again. What happened with the thermal camera, guys?
We're just gonna pretend that didn't happen? I know it happened. I saw it happen. You showed it to me like 5 minutes ago.
Anyways, they conclude that while the video might be fake, that spooky audio proves that the Queen Mary is definitely haunted. So, is Fact or Faked a good show? That question is a bit more complicated than it seems. I think the major issue with this show is that there's a sort of conflict between being an interesting paranormal show while also being a show about debunking paranormal footage. Like, they can't just look at footage of a ghost and go, nah, that's fake, it's edited. Because obviously that wouldn't make for an interesting show. So instead they have to come up with these often over-the-top and elaborate solutions and use super dramatic editing and reactions to keep the show interesting. And since they're trying to appeal to fans of the paranormal, it feels like it limits how much debunking they can actually do. Like, sometimes they'll present what seems like a very conclusive way that something could be faked, but they'll never take a hard stance on it being faked. Like, they sort of leave it up to audience interpretation. So, is it good in terms of factually debunking paranormal footage? Not really. But is it good in terms of being an entertaining show? Yeah, I definitely think so. I actually really enjoyed going back and watching the show, even if I found it entertaining for completely different reasons than I used to. I actually recommend checking this show out if you have the chance, even if it's just how goofy it can be at times. So I'll leave links to places you can watch it down in the description. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it was a bit different than some of the other stuff I've made, but I wanted to try out like a more commentary style of video with like a script and stuff. If you guys like this, I'd love to make another video on it. Let me know if you like find any interesting episodes you want me to talk about, or even another show that you'd want me to make a video on. That's all I've got for now. I'm gonna go take a nap, and hopefully it doesn't last for an entire year this time. Bye!